right, everybody. So on today's podcast, I'm pretty excited. We've got big things happening in the VW scene that we haven't seen happening in quite a while, and a huge part of that is what's taking place at EMPI. We all know we all know EMPI. EMPI's been around for years. It's a staple name in the VW community since the 50s. And today on the podcast, I've got Phillip Kane, who is the CEO, the new CEO of EMPI for about a year now. And I've got him on the podcast. We've got a lot of questions. We're going to find out what EMPI's up to and where their trajectory is headed. And I think it's only good things for the VW scene. So, Phillip, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so, there's been a lot of things happening lately in respect to the changes that EMPI's doing. One of the things right out of the gate with Jack Sacchetti and, the compound and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to get to that in a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is roll into some things because I've been heavily involved in the VW community for the past 25 or so years, a little bit from a distance in the Southern Nevada area, here in Las Vegas, but pretty tied in and connected to the Southern California scene. But a lot of things that maybe people didn't see on the forefront, and it seems to me like there was kind of a quiet transition with new ownership coming into EMPI. And, we all know the history of EMPI that's been around for a while, and over the past, I'd say, and I said this on my last podcast, let's say probably over the past 10 years, it almost seemed like EMPI's trajectory was not taking the brand where it needed to be.
Fair enough.
And I'm excited with the new things that are coming out, but I'd like to hear, and just to give our listeners some insight, I'll give a little background on you. So background that I did a little research on you. And so I know that you've been with EMPI since 2018. Before that, you were with Pirelli. Before Pirelli, you were with Goodyear for quite a while. And it seems that you've been in product merchandising, specifically in the automotive industry, for quite a few years now. And it seems that every company that you've gone to, you've helped, you've come in, you've reinvigorated the company, infused growth mentality, and tried to get a big new team on board, which we see that happening now at EMPI. Give me a little bit of your history and kind of what your specialty is what you do when you come on board with these companies.
You bet. Well, I'll go all the way back to the beginning because for me it's truly important. My grandfather was an international harvester truck dealer. And he started actually on his back in a Dodge plant and had a dream. He wanted to be a Harvester dealer in Hamtramck, Michigan. So he reached out to Harvester and said, I want to sell your trucks. And they said, we'll take a chance on you. And so he opened a Harvester store. And my earliest memories are climbing around big trucks in Detroit, Michigan. And my father became a truck dealer. But he had a rule. He said, you got to go work someplace else before you can come to work here. So I went to work for my dad's brother, who was also a truck dealer, and came back after 3 years. And my dad said, that doesn't count. And I said, that doesn't count. He said, you got to go to work for somebody whose last name isn't Kane. And that was my first lesson in getting an upfront contract. So I left and went out into industry, and I had so much fun that I never went back. And you're right. The assignments that I've had mostly in my career have been, I say jobs nobody else wants. I'm kind of like Mikey in the Life cereal commercial, right?
Right.
You do it. I ain't doing it. You do it. Let's get Phillip. But they're tasks where I have an opportunity to help people in divisions or companies achieve things that they never thought were possible. And that was one of the things that attracted me to EMPI. You're right. It was a company that's been kind of flat for a long time with a brand that was going, you're right, the wrong way. And to come here and help these almost 100 people do something better for the industry, for themselves. And so that was what attracted me to the company and why I came and why I'm here. And I'm sure we'll get into what we're doing, but I'll tell you, I'm having the time of my life here.
Well, and I think so. Miraculously, if you're a car guy, right, and you see a brand that is it's as big as any of the automotive aftermarket brands that are in the Chevrolet or in the American car side, there's no bigger brand on the VW side than EMPI.
Yeah.
And to be able, I think, the exciting thing for me that I think that would be exciting if I were you is here's history, brand recognition, all these amazing opportunities that is really a truly American success story of EMPI that caught on the VW wave in the beginning, has all this history, and then you kind of see a company that started out from a grassroots effort, just guys wanting to make something better and quality and good. And then to see it kind of died off in the early 70s and then and then came back up in the 80s. And it always kind of hovered around like it was never the same EMPI of old,
Exactly.
And when I see that and I see what you've done in your past and then what's taking place today, to me, it's the only smart thing to do, because in this industry is run by boutique, private, drove it and build it guys, and that's the story of EMPI. And now for me on the outside as an enthusiast to see that EMPI is going out there and saying, hey man, we want the guys that are making things happen in the scene to be part of our company.
Absolutely. And you'll have to cut me off if I start going on, because this is my favorite part of the whole thing. But when we all started here, and I brought a fellow that worked with me before in Goodyear, and we fixed a business at Goodyear that wasn't doing so well, and he's a very important part of my life. And so he decided to go on this journey with me. And when we first came, we started working with the folks at EMPI, and we looked at the thing, and we started talking about what it was that we wanted to do. And the original EMPI is very important to me personally. And I started devouring stuff about the original EMPI, whether it was marketing material or information about Joe Vitone and their racing program. Anything I could find, I read about it. And what we set out to do was, in effect, build a business that resembled that one. And I'll tell you, there is no big Beatles fan in our company, but we stole a line from one of their songs, and it's the one that says "back to where we once belonged." And that's what we're trying to do, is build a company that resembles that one. I don't know if you can see this or not, but this wristband I have on, they gave them away at European Buggy, and it's kind of a takeoff on the pants that Paul Schle's team wore in the early EMPI days.
Yeah, the crazy multicolored graphic pants, the print pants that he wore.
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't taken it off since I came home, and I'm not going to take it off, because for me it's a metaphor for what we're trying to do.
Well, I'll give you a great story on EMPI on how valuable. So I was pretty surprised. A good friend of mine who passed away a few years ago, I went to EBI in 2014 with him. And it was he, I, Joe Horvath, and some other guys. And I was kind of the coattail rider of all the big dogs over there, right? But I'm there, and I see there's a guy from France, and I can't remember his name, but he's the guy that always does the huge EMPI displays. He does a big, huge EMPI display. And you can see how prominent EMPI is throughout. And I remember there was a story that I was there listening to about the flower pattern roof on the EMPI bug, right? So on this flower pattern roof, there was this Hawaiian vinyl that was put over the rooftop. And then when I got the story behind it, that as they were towing the car to Flags, they were going through Flagstaff. They stayed the night at Flagstaff, and it froze. And the paint cracked on top of the car. They had a photo shoot scheduled for the next day. They wrapped the roof in vinyl. So my buddy Chris, friends with Lee Layton, happens to be at Lee's place, and somehow up in the crawl space something, finds the rest of the bolt of fabric that they used on the inch pincher. And I'm watching all these grown men in this tent. My buddy Chris Cox had that bolt of fabric. He brought it just for the EBI display. Like, this is the actual fabric used in the inch pincher, blah, blah. Like the Shroud of Turin. You understand? I mean, this thing was like, everybody was just in awe. And then Chris takes and snips off about a 6x6 section and hands it to the guy that's the massive EMPI fan. And the guy literally loses it. I mean, the guy's in tears, and it's just like, but there's so much history with EMPI that over the past 20 years has just been kind of like, has been done a disservice.
I agree completely. And that's why we're trying to to recapture that, but not in a way that says we want to be the old EMPI. I don't know if you've heard, but I've been very public about the fact that as we return to racing, I'm never going to have a car that says inch pincher on the back, because to me that's a disservice to Joe Vitone and the original EMPI folks. We're
It's part of the history. It's part of that. It's part of that history, and now this is
right.
part of the new history.
Right. Yeah, we're building a new company, but we want to build a company that resembles that company to the following extent. I told you I started devouring stuff from Joe Vitone's EMPI. And what I would do every time I would read something or see something, I would write down words that came to my mind, and not words I saw in their print, but words that were inspirational to me. And when I got done, I went through and looked at what were the words that appeared the most. And they were quality, speed, and innovation. And those are the words that have become grounding points for us from an external standpoint. Those are the things that we're trying now to deliver to the market. And you said something earlier that was very important, because it's something that guides us. When in the first version of EMPI, these guys were developing things out of whole cloth, right out of the air, for a new car. These weren't old cars back then, they were brand new, and these guys were developing things for the first time for these cars to make them look better, go faster, perform better. And and one of the things that I drive home for our folks is there isn't any reason that you can't make something new for an old car.
Sure.
So we're trying to innovate, and we're also trying to make better things for this industry, because this industry deserves it. And we want to, and the speed factor is kind of a dual purpose item. We want to go faster. We want to deliver things more quickly to the industry, and it's also the performance factor. We want to help people go faster in these cars. So those are our grounding points: quality, speed, and innovation. And that's for us the connection to the original EMPI, because to me that's what the original EMPI represented. And I'll tell you one quick story, because we were talking about the
Yeah.
folks of the early EMPI. Um, Whenever there's a detractor for EMPI, I reach out to them and I tell them, hey, I'd like to spend a little time talking to you. And one of the very first ones was Paul Schley. And I called him, and after he had posted something, and I said, come on, Paul, let's talk about this. And he was gracious enough to spend about an hour on the phone with me. And by the end, he was starting to believe. And then he invited me over to his place. And I'll tell you now, Paul is one of our biggest boosters, and he's become a personal friend of mine, in addition to being one of my heroes. And and that's deeply important to me, because he was there at the beginning.
Yeah.
And when these people start to believe in what we're doing, it tells me that we're on the right path. And one of the things I hope that you've noticed about me and our company, we're not out beating our chests a lot about what we're doing, because I know that one mistake can send us backward a long, long way. So we're kind of out quietly doing what we're doing. Some of the things we make a little noise about, like the JC thing and the compound thing, just because it's important that the industry sees that we're bringing quality back in a big way to EMPI. But what we're trying to do is just kind of go about our business and give something back to the industry in terms of quality products, in terms of participation in events, in terms of interaction with our customers and people in the industry. And so that's what it's all about for us. But it's all tied back to quality, speed, and innovation, which were for me part of the Joe Vitone entity.
No, absolutely. I think, the steps that I'm seeing being made are like all okay. I'm in my mid, maybe late 40s, and I'm a business owner,
I'm
and
just a kid.
and I look at things and how people do things, and in today's day and age, it would have been easy enough to buy EMPI, repackage stuff, continue going down the same path, figure out a way to lean things out, increase profits, and then just turn it around, sell it, do whatever. But to actually enter an organization like this and really embrace and appreciate the history, to the point where, like you said, quality, innovation, and speed. I mean, those things. If you take this back to the time when EMPI first came out, the Volkswagen was way more reliable than your average Chevrolet. So
Yeah.
you couldn't just build some hokey aftermarket part and get no use out of it because they were known back then for real stellar reliability. They were brand new, really refined. And so to take it back to those roots listen, in today's day and age, anyone can have anything made in China. It doesn't matter. Well, and we're going to get into that in a minute because of what's happening with tariffs and stuff like that. And I'll give you a quick story of the feedback I got on EMPI. I went to Kalispell, Montana with my wife to pick up a Type 34 Ghia project. When I drove there, I walk in this guy's barn, and he's got a shop. I mean, we're 80 miles from the Canadian border, and it's cold. I go in the shop, and I see like all these running boards and all this stuff, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, I make the running boards. I'm like, the aluminum running boards? He says, yeah. I go, oh man. And I'm thinking in my head, I've used the aluminum running boards, the rigid ones for years and years. And I kind of and I talked to the guy, this is probably two and a half years ago when I bought this car. And I said, yeah, I remember we bought those and this, that, whatever. He says, yeah, EMPI used to be my main supplier. He makes them in Kalispell, Montana. He made tons of them. And then the previous ownership for EMPI, I guess, just went and kind of outsourced it. And so here's this guy, and I'm thinking like, man, just the value. And I think people are wise enough, most consumers are wise enough that, and the consumers and business relationships have changed. People want, it's got to be a mutually beneficial relationship. So people will pay more money for better quality, and especially if it's connected to U.S. made products and stuff like that. And when I was up there talking to him, he said, yeah, he said EMPI I never had to sell my product to anybody else. I just used to sell all my running boards to EMPI. They would buy them direct. He says, now I just put a little thing on the Ensemble. He's got a really bad website. And he's just a simple guy who came up with this idea to make the running boards and stuff. And it kind of bummed me out because, like I was telling my friend earlier that passed away, he was really, really big in the VW scene behind the scenes, my buddy Chris Cox. Real big influencer of where all the OEM parts came from. And, in the past, he didn't have a lot of good things to say about the way that EMPI's previous ownership had done business, just because it was all about the bottom line and it was nothing about the product and the quality. And really what we see taking place now under new ownership is this invigoration to like, hey, look, we've got this golden history that you can't pay for. That's immeasurable. And to be able to build off of that and bring out products to the market that are even better, it's exciting for me. There's so many things happening around that VW scene. I mean, I just had Chris Baker with Classic Steel Bodies. He's the guy that's remaking all the bus metal to where by the end of this year he'll be delivering complete bus shells for people. It's huge. It's huge right now in this market, and I'm excited to see all these things that are taking place, because it's only going to further the market. I mean, I think sometimes we live in a bubble and we think that the market is just, we look around Southern California or Southern Nevada or wherever our local neighborhood is, like, we don't see tons of innovation happening in the VW scene, although it's constantly been happening. And I remember on the EBI trip, I'm driving with the guys from CSP and the guys from Flat 4. We're all again, I'm coattail riding with all the big dogs because I'm there with my buddy Chris. And I'm just asking the guys questions because I ask questions. That's what I do. Maybe that's why I started the podcast. But I asked these guys a question. I said, how do you guys see the VW scene? Has it been slowly, because from my perspective, maybe it was going down a little bit. And that's my limited perspective of not being in the industry, in the trenches. And I said to them, how's the industry been going? They said, it's been 15 to 20% growth each year. And where I think we'd forget about that is understanding that the VW industry is a global market. It's so much larger, has such a greater potential than Chevrolet, because Chevrolet wasn't a worldwide distributed product. So I think the opportunity is phenomenal, and you have to, some people, might be a little too flower power. Sometimes people don't, you have to have sales in order to create growth. So the sales, one begets the next, and that marriage there is where you get innovation from, is where you get the money to develop and do those things. But I think there's huge opportunity and upside, especially to take EMPI and stitch it back together into the brand recognition it had before. So now tell me about some of the things you're doing. I know I was on the website. I saw some of the starters you guys are doing. A lot of products, like you're either going direct to you, which is the smart thing to do. Instead of seeing somebody makes this product and you go knock it off, well, look, you're the 800-pound gorilla. Let's make a deal. Let me be your exclusive distributor, and let me deliver your quality to my distribution network, which is the smart way to do it, because then it's putting more quality products. What other stuff that maybe some of our listeners haven't heard about have you guys been upping the game on so that they can hear it directly from you?
Okay, sure. It's kind of been a combination of many things that we've been doing so far. Certainly, we came in and to your point, started looking at what are quality products out there that we're not likely to immediately improve upon. And you mentioned a couple of them, the WASP starters. But you'll also see some products come out from WASP where we've said, hey, if you do this, and it'll make that product much better for the industry. And so we're doing things like that with WASP. You've also seen projects that we've done with some notable companies in the industry like Wiseco, where we've gone to them and said, hey, you've been making this product for years and years for the VW industry, but if you do these 5 things, it'll be much better. And then laser engrave our name on the top. So you'll continue to see us working with huge quality names in the industry to collaboratively make products better for the industry. We're also working on our own products, both within the U.S., China, and Brazil, to make them better. You'll see a funny video from me on Monday, but our kind of rule of thumb is if we don't buy it, let's don't sell it. And so either don't sell it or go over there and make it better. Now,
right.
with 5,500 SKUs, it's going to take us a little while to get around the horn, but we are working on our products to make them better. Then we're doing things like innovating around new stuff that we'll be bringing to the market. Things like what we're doing with PIP. Jack Sacchetti's going to be innovating even further. One of the big things about him coming over was he said, hey, you know what? I don't want to be doing HR. I don't want to be doing accounting. I don't want to be doing all the other things that go along with owning a business. I just want to innovate. So let me come over and work with you. I'm going to innovate all day long, make chips all day long. So he's excited as hell about what we're doing together.
Totally.
So it's things like that. You'll see some other folks likely join our team. But one commitment that I will make to you absolutely is you will never see EMPI ever copy someone else's work again, ever.
Yeah, that's huge, because literally right now the rip-off artist game is so easy to do. I mean, you can take something, if you've got the dollars to do it, I can grab anybody's product, ship it off to China, and get it made. And if I want to undercut them, what some people don't understand is they go, China can actually produce good quality stuff. They have the capability.
Absolutely. And wherever you go, China, Brazil, the US,
Brazil,
you will get what you pay for.
And that's exactly what it comes down to. You know, if you want it $5 cheaper, they're going to skip 2 steps and make it $5 cheaper for you. And sometimes people that are driven by the profit versus the brand recognition, because the brand recognition is what holds the value. You know,
absolutely. One of the things I've taught our folks since I came, and you would think that this is self-evident, but I've spent a lot of time on the supplier side. And if a customer comes to you and says, hey, take $5 out of that part, whether it's a tire, whether it's an alternator, it doesn't matter what it is. What people fail to understand is the supplier is not going to take that out of their profit.
Right.
They're going to take it out of the part. And so the part is going to become $5 worse. And so then the industry is going to become $5 worse for what just happened. And so what we would rather do is make the part $5 better, because we believe that the industry will pay $5 more for a part that's $5 better, because it'll perform $5 better. It'll last $5 more. So that's what we're about, is going over and working with our vendors to say, hey, um, we're done screwing you to the floor on cost, because we realize that that prevents you from reinvesting in your business. We realize that that prevents you from investing in quality raw materials. So let's work together to build better parts together so that you can make more money, we can make more money, our customers can make more money, and the owners of vehicles can have a better overall experience. So that's really what we're working on in a nutshell, whether it's our products or anybody else's.
Well,
The other I want to mention is, um, EMPI bought BugPack a few years ago and in effect killed it. It was nothing going on with BugPack, but BugPack's going to come back in a big way. And if you remember, BugPack was high quality stuff, mostly made in the USA.
oh yeah.
And that's what you're going to see again, is high quality stuff, most just like before, mostly made in the USA. If BugPack was making it someplace else before, we'll probably make it where they were making it. But by and large, their stuff was made in the USA, and that's what we're going to do again.
Well,
So,
and if you look at the strategic play of that, someone may have thought, maybe the previous ownership thought, hey, if I buy Bug Pack, it gives me more credibility. You know what I'm
well,
saying? And then, but
yeah,
then I'm going to knock off
you
all
would
their
have thought,
stuff
you
and
would have
make.
thought that's what I'd have done with it, but
But,
I wouldn't have.
but I mean, and some people think like, there's really ingenious ways to co-op with other companies that at one time were your competitors, and then when you become the big guy, there may be, because competition is always healthy for the industry. Always, it doesn't matter what it is. But if you look at someone that's in the same industry, maybe a competitor, but they've got a different talent that you don't take, bringing them in house, because some people think in this industry, because it's so many times started with just a guy and an idea, that they'll think like, well, what's this guy Phillip doing? He's over here stealing this guy and taking that guy and doing this. And I see it as a business owner going, oh man, he's going to blow that company up to something awesome, because he knows one guy can't do it. You need a guy on the design side. You need a guy on the performance and R&D and development side. You need people, and then to be taking really good talent and putting them in those positions. I mean, it's a testament to me. And I don't want this to seem like it's an EMPI commercial, because I currently have no EMPI products on my on my car to this day. And so, but I mean, I'm seeing it as a person that's passionate about the VW scene, and my concern for it to continue to be here for my kids. My kids are, my son will end up getting my bus. He'll do. It'll go into that. But when an industry starts to suffer because the 800-pound gorilla is producing trash, it just kills everybody, and then the business can't survive on small boutique operations around the world, because to some degree the opportunity of being where you're at is you've already got the ball rolling, the distribution network set up, the name recognition, and the rolling momentum already to say, hey, we can change this moving forward and make it that much better. And multiple things will happen. The company becomes more profitable. The people get a better product. The industry is made stronger and given more, because the VW industry has always been like the stepchild of the performance industry. To go to MSD and say like, hey, we want you guys to make this, and this, like, yeah, we made that one little thing for you. Go away now. And the crazy part is they don't realize how massive the industry is. There's been no vehicle that's been produced more than the Beetle. And so when you're talking about, we're just sitting here thinking about the U.S. market. But if you go to Latin America, forget it. It's huge. And now that people that grew up with those cars are now customizing them and doing all kinds of innovative stuff that they're doing in Mexico and Brazil and places like that, I think it's wonderful that the market that's there, that you can build great product for it. And if you build the product, they will buy it. You build good stuff, people are going to pay for it, and they have no problem doing that. And that's what I'm excited to see taking place with EMPI. I saw also that you guys have now an in-house CNC. Talk to me about the decision to do that.
Well, for us, we've had that machine for a while, but what we're doing is expanding our capability there, particularly with Jack coming over and being on board, and then you'll continue to see increased investment there. For us, without going too far into the details of what's coming, what we're looking to do in that regard is to take greater control of finish work in our own hands, if that makes sense, because we believe that the quality of work that we do is superior to the quality of work that anyone can do anywhere. So if we bring raw or semi-finished work here and then finish it ourselves, the quality of that is superior to anything we can get anywhere. So that has a lot to do with it. And then secondly, the more we invest in that type of equipment, the more of work that Jack does can be made available to the public.
Yeah, on the R&D side, do you guys also have a 3D printer?
We have one coming.
Yeah, because there's a lot. I mean, I look at and I'm a mostly VW guy. VWs are my heart. That's my everything. But I'm a cross-platform guy. I have a international harvest. I have a Travel-All, a 70 Travel-All. I've got a diverse collection of stuff. But when you look into the other markets, you know, there's so much design and development that goes into those where they, you know, like with the LS motors and direct injection on a lot of cars and things to that extent. I had CB Performance on the podcast a few weeks back, and I, you know, I'm thinking like, man, is anybody ever going to come out with a direct injected head for a Volkswagen? Like, you know, when you're talking power and efficiency and all that kind of stuff, it may be the next level of things to come if we can make that transition. And when I say we, I mean you guys in the R&D department doing what you're doing. But I think it's something that could be huge. I mean, there's so much opportunity for development. You know, especially with you guys having keys in the right places to be able to go into a production scale on a product.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more. And that's what I mentioned earlier. For us, the notion becomes, why can't you make new stuff for these old cars? Because I think the industry, with the exception of who you mentioned, some of these boutique guys, the industry's just been content to just make the same old stuff for these old cars. And it becomes exhausting. And so what we're about is, hey, what can we do new that gets people excited again? And that's one of the reasons I love Pip, is he's taken it's almost sacrilege for some of these old guys, but he's taken high value stuff like splits and all, and he's making a statement with them, and I love it. And that's what we want to do is bring stuff out that says, hey, you can do something different with these things if you want, and it's fun, and it'll be fun for them.
Yeah, and you've seen in the past, innovation's always been pushed by the one guy. So yeah, somebody's done it, but it was one guy who did it. He went through the process to do it. No one else can get one, but it's, you know, it always comes out of necessity. And on the side with Pip and the compound and all that stuff, you know, it goes from he wants a certain look, and so for him with that look, the look pushes the design because he's like, I got to get rid of that. I got to make this disappear. And how do I do this? And it still needs to function. So I'm excited with some of that compound built stuff. And for those of our listeners throughout the world that maybe haven't had a magazine subscription in a while or something, that might not know about Pip and the compound, but that's the guy responsible for a large majority of the DBK cars. The mega high level of detail and just always turning out something really, really over the top, you know. And I'm excited to see, you know, when I see that EMPI aligns themselves with people like Jack and Pip and stuff like that, like you guys are already going for the top people in the scene, which is great because it's gonna, it's going to continue to push like the every car to have some of those touches, some of that development, some of that R&D, and taking Jack's racing history and bringing that into the design and development of cylinder heads, pistons, and versus I think some people just think like, oh, someone came out with one of those, let's just copy that, you know? So I'm excited. What about, are you guys doing, do you guys, and I don't know because I haven't cruised through your catalog and I don't know if you guys offer, do you guys offer Nicosol plated pistons? Or is that something currently is not in the catalog and there's a cost of, because that's one of the ways when Porsche took a leap on air-cooled stuff with their pistons were always Nicosol plated, which made them run cooler, made them better. I know I had a set on a motor of mine and they're not cheap.
Right. Now, as you know, most of what EMPI's done so far has kind of been in that kind of middle range, and you'll start to see us move up into the upper echelon of parts, but up until now, we've mostly operated kind of in that middle, everybody can afford it range of life. But I agree with you, and particularly as we move into Porsche more and more, because of the interchangeability factor, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for us to make available to VW owners a higher quality of product. And I'm pretty excited about that because we can't say it enough. If you make something quality, people will pay for something quality.
Yeah, no doubt. So I saw you guys have redeveloped the brake kits a little bit. Is there constant development on the braking end of things?
Yeah, we'll keep going there as well. We're working on an exciting joint development with a major manufacturer in the marketplace to take our brake kits to an even higher level, and then we'll actually be going back through our brake kits and looking at the components and then.
It makes me laugh because it's such a smart perspective in an industry where people think I have to make it myself. Well, if you create the demand, there's no reason why you wouldn't go to a big brake manufacturer and say, yeah, we'll make you a kit. We've got the technology. We've got the R&D. We'll save you those thousands of dollars that usually don't get put into people's kits and stuff like that. And you can partner with them and say, look, I can sell 1,000 kits, 2,000 kits a year for you. No problem. It's viable for you to make me a workable kit because as you've seen, just the history of brakes itself, 50 different brake kits out there you can get.
Right, absolutely. And the way that I look at parts, and as you saw my background, I spent 7 years in the Napa system, is that there are, within kits especially, there are things that are highly functional and things that are barely functional. Like in a brake kit, for example, the rotor is basically a hunk of iron.
Right.
There are metal hoses, just you can't perfect on those to any great extent. Hoses are somewhat an engineered product, but not to a great extent. But there are other highly engineered products in there, and to me, there's an opportunity to upgrade those components to a higher level at every level of our kit to differentiate them from other people. And then, to your point, to go to a manufacturer that does fantastic work in the marketplace, and then offer an even higher level kit to the marketplace. So those are the kind of things that you're going to see us do more and more. And you're likely to see us partner with some folks in the general aftermarket, because one of the things that you mentioned earlier is absolutely true. They've ignored the VW segment forever. And now that everybody's restored every single 69 Camaro that is empty, they need to find other people to sell parts to. And just walking through their door and saying, hey, I've got an opportunity for you. They listen, and it's going to be fun. So, because we have the wherewithal to help them not only develop stuff, but also distribute it.
Yeah.
So the general aftermarket is starting to pay attention to Volkswagen, and that's going to be fun for us.
Yeah.
So,
As myself, as a business owner, I was like, what would I do if I was there? Like, what would I do? And it's like, you're doing all the things that anybody that says, look, why kill ourselves trying to make up a brake kit or have pistons made in China or whatever, when they're like, hey, there's resources here we can gravitate to and say, hey, look, You want to sell? We have a market. Let's get together, make us something specifically for us. And the boutique aspect is still there because you're still taking that boutique design that's small culture VW and saying, hey, big piston manufacturer, make us these.
Right.
And when you're going to make me 10,000 of them, they're going to be cheaper now for my people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there will always be certain things that may be uniquely EMPI because we want them to be uniquely EMPI. But if there are people in the marketplace who are the best provider of a certain item, it only makes sense to go and say, hey, best provider of a certain item, we know the Volkswagen world better than anybody, and we know that your product could be even better if you did these 3 to 5 things. So why don't we do these 3 to 5 things together and then go own the Volkswagen market?
Absolutely.
This Wiseco project has been unbelievable in terms of its turnover, and you know there aren't appreciably more pistons being sold in the Volkswagen world, so we know that more people are coming to EMPI to buy pistons than other places where they were buying them before because they're better.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're on the market, it's like, okay, here's my SEMA pistons that I can buy that I think they're made are they made in Brazil now, the SEMA pistons or something? So they're made in Brazil and they're $189 or whatever they are, $250. But here's a $400 set of Wiseco pistons and they're Wisecos. I'm getting the Wisecos. I mean, you're going to listen, there's always the level of consumer that's like the guy that could care less about quality, less about R&D, just wants cheap. That's not, when you realize that that's not your market, that's not the returning market, that's not the guy that comes back, that's not the guy that helps you build a brand, then it amazes me that I see people that get into a business and maybe I think it's, I don't know, it could be pride for people that they just think it's them. They're so good. You know, it's not that they're the only game in town, and that's the reason why everybody's buying from them, but they're so good that it doesn't matter what they do, it'll be awesome. And then they get so consumed with that they could care less about the quality of the production of things that are coming out, and that's where you see the demise of that going. So other stuff, any new direction or let's say, you know, for Let's Talk Dubs exclusive, anything that's out there like that you guys aren't associated with in the past that you're going to be making a direction towards coming up in the future?
Well, maybe it's not public knowledge, but and so it might feel like an exclusive, but it's something that we talk about regularly. You're going to see EMPI continue to grow even beyond and well beyond the air-cooled world. So it's no secret that we're offering products already for water-cooled VWs, but today, and so that'll naturally transfer into other kind of water-cooled relatives. So, and that'll be exciting for folks to watch because, and I'll tell you why, because your air-cooled VW guys are probably thinking right now, who cares? But I'll tell you why that's important, because the R&D expertise that comes from a company that's developing high-end products for water-cooled relatives can bring that expertise to the air-cooled VW world. Absolutely. And help us with stuff that makes a whole lot of fun for us in the air-cooled VW world. It's going to be a blast. And so that's what I'm really looking forward to, is entirely transforming our business and entirely even in taking the companies that we're working with, like JC, to a whole different level. And I just want to pause because you touched on it earlier. I think there's a notion among a small handful of people out there that I personally or our company is about gobbling up smaller companies so that we can do away with them or just be as you pointed out, the 800-pound gorilla that just dominates the market. That's not what I'm all about. What I'm all about is finding the great brands in the marketplace and making them even greater. So you'll continue to see us do things like that, but it's not about buying a company like JC and destroying it. It's about buying a company like JC and making its products available to even more people.
Oh,
That's what.
without question, I think I've had, time after time, I've had VW business owners on the podcast, and I'll tell you this: no one's getting rich. No one's getting rich in the VW scene, and sometimes you see amazing talent, and like you said, Jack just wants to do R&D. He wants to do R&D. He wants to develop. He wants to do cutting edge. He doesn't want to deal with the aluminum supplier and all the other ancillary stuff that when we as creative individuals are feeling stifled by our workplace, we're like, screw this, I'm going to start my own business. Because you're honed in on what you do and you're kind of your vision gets kind of blurred to all the ancillary stuff that makes that business go. And that's why you see some of the greatest talents go out of business because they're an excellent R&D person. They were just a horrible accountant, or they were terrible at collecting their money, or the numerous things that are there. But to be able to see that, there's an opportunity for those people to really be in an environment where they can flourish. Now it's like, okay, what if I put you in a room and said, don't worry about the power bill getting paid this month. You just focus on developing stuff.
Absolutely. And that's really what it's all about for us. And we also find that in some of these places, um, there, there are some really smart people. And that's what gets us excited about this because, this is a great time to talk about it. For me, the most important people at EMPI are the people that work there. And, and keeping them safe is the most important thing for me. And you've probably seen on my Instagram page my hair getting progressively longer.
Yeah.
That's because I haven't had a haircut since the last time somebody got hurt, which was over 300 days ago. And I told them if we get to day 365, they can shave my head in the middle of the warehouse.
Nice.
It looks like it's going to happen. But for me, what we're doing at EMPI is about making the lives of those people better. Because when their lives get better, everything gets better. Our products get better. The experience for the end user gets better. But it begins and ends with making the lives of the people that work at EMPI better. And that's really what I'm all about. And all this other stuff is happening because of that. And I'm glad that folks like you see it because that's really that's what we're trying to do is just be better. And because who wants to be mediocre? Who wakes up in the morning, looks in the mirror?
Not this guy.
Mediocre.
You sound like me in my morning meetings. Who woke up today saying I'm going to be average today? Like nobody.
Right.
So that brings me to a next question as we're talking about business on a global scale and all these things. So it brings us because a lot of people in the VW scene are like, what's a tariff? Who cares about a tariff? Tariffs. Now with the product line that some of the stuff that EMPI was selling was or is manufactured overseas in China. Now with the Chinese tariffs, how has that affected the dynamics on, let's say, because you're the biggest guy in the VW scene, how has that affected the dynamics of you guys doing business? And I think that there's an opportunity to go stateside and really bring some great stuff to the table. What has it done by changing that, by those dynamics changing? What has it done for EMPI in regards to having to be able to react to that?
Well, certainly we've had to price for those tariffs. And that's what, to me, is unfortunate about the tariffs is they just ultimately end up impacting the end user because you have to price for them.
Sure.
Because something of that magnitude, you just can't accept it as cost, so it gets passed through. So, and to me, that's been unfortunate because it impacts the end user ultimately. But you're right, it has also motivated everyone, us, others, to look at different places for manufacturing, whether it's other places in Asia or Brazil, Mexico, the U.S. But you're right. I'm bullish on U.S. manufacturing, and I love looking for places in the U.S. to make stuff because I also think that you can collect for it. that when someone holds a product from one place in one hand and a product made in the U.S. in the other hand, they're willing to pay more for a product made in the U.S. So
There's no doubt. I mean, JC's pulleys, you know,
absolutely.
they weren't cheap, but you know what? They're worth it. It's like get them because not only look cool, but they're made here in the States, and there's something to be said about that. So I'm hopeful that it opens up opportunities. Who knows? Maybe my buddy up in Kalispell, Montana, might start selling some running boards again. I don't know if it's made it viable, but you know, in American-made product on an, you know, I've said this. I said this on our last podcast. I said this on a podcast that hasn't been released yet, but I said this previously. I said Volkswagens are as American as apple pie and as American as Chevrolet. I'm telling you that right now, and I wholeheartedly believe that because you can't go down the street in a Volkswagen without people flocking to it. They love it. They're reminiscent. It's part of the VW flourished in America because it's part of the American dream. And the American dream is that everybody gets a car. Everybody should be able to drive a car, you know. And that affordable vehicle just opened up the doors for everybody. And that's why it's so woven into our Americana, you know. And so some people might want to debate that, but I don't think the numbers don't lie, and I don't think you can from a nostalgic standpoint. You can't think about America, even in American Graffiti. There's you know, convertible bug and a rag top and all that stuff because those things were the staple of the car culture, you know. So
yeah, I agree with you completely. And I used to, as you know, I spent 12 years at Goodyear, and when you look at up in the air and you see the Goodyear blimp, you can't help but smile, and it's impossible not to. And to me, the Beetle is the same way, maybe the bus to a lesser extent, but you cannot look at a Beetle and not smile. And then, but it goes one step further. There is an almost visceral emotional attachment that you have to these cars. Even if you're not the owner of them, you look at these cars and you become emotionally attached to them. And to me, that's what's the most important part about this industry. And you're right, these cars are American. They've been here for a long, long time, and they'll continue to be here for a long, long time.
well,
And
I mean, substantiating my point is like how many American-grown businesses have started in America by Americans that were into these goofy foreign vehicles. You know what I mean? You're running one of them. But you know what I'm saying? It's like it starts out with an opportunity. That's what America's about, is an opportunity and taking opportunity and hard work. And when those two things come together, you're unstoppable. So, I mean, I'm excited. One thing I did want to mention that everybody should know about Phillip here, which I saw on his resume, is that he is an Eagle Scout.
yes, I am.
And I thought when I read that and that was on your resume, I thought, you know what? I dig that. You know, I wasn't into scouting when I was younger. I've been a scout leader for years. For the past 15 years, I've been involved in the scouting organization and stuff like that because it's one of those things where kids are hands-on and they learn and they grow to become the fine, upstanding kids. And as we talked, when I looked at this, I mentioned, I think I told my scouts one day, if as an employer, if I took the scout law and held it up to every employee, that makes the perfect employee. Not only the perfect individual, but like if you look at it, and I think it's so awesome to do that. You know, having that Eagle Scout on your resume, I loved it. I saw it and I thought, man, because to some people it stands for something. It stands for a commitment to finish something you started, to do hard things, but to learn that there's a reward to those things. And so I wanted to mention that on there for those fellow scouters out there, people that are into scouting. It was one of the things that kind of impressed me. I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. So
Thank you.
But man, it's been great getting to talk to you, and I hope definitely Let's Talk Dubs becomes an avenue for you, because now, mind you, some stats on Let's Talk Dubs, we're downloaded as of yesterday in 69 countries around the world. So
Wow.
This is pretty awesome that world exclusive people get to hear what's happening with EMPI, because sometimes things are, now I know you broke the news of Jack over there in Europe, across across the pond over there, and it still made global news. But I think that it's surprised me how much the podcast, because I was thinking of America, the States, because I'm so in my head, but we've been just blowing up all over the world. It's like I said, 69 countries. So I think it's great that people get to see what EMPI is going to start doing, make way and prepare to see EMPI forge a new trail in innovation, and back to quality being number one, and back to where we once belonged.
Thank you.
Exactly. So
thanks. I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity. It's been a lot of fun. I'm glad I got a chance to meet you this way. I'm looking forward to actually crossing paths with you in the right way. And
for sure. No, hey, I'm excited to get you on here, because I'm excited to see these things as a to the core enthusiast. Like, I'm the guy, I smell the inside of an old bug with that horsehair interior, and I just and I regress back to where I was 16, and anything is possible, and I can build this thing, and I'll get it on the road, and but it's like you said, that visceral connection that people have with Volkswagens. I mean, it's what makes doing the podcast fun, because I mean, the history is so varied, so wide, such a huge audience that we have out there. And I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad to be able to bring people like you and get you access to people that don't normally hear it, but by convenience of technology, they're just listening to the podcast. So, man, Phillip, anything you want to leave us with on the podcast? We've been yapping at it for just at an hour right now, so it went by quick. Lots of good stuff going on, but anything you want to leave people out there in podcast land with?
So it's 2004. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, working for Genuine Parts, who is Napa. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best companies on the planet. They've hit their profit goal probably still now every quarter, but maybe one or two since 1928. So fantastic company. I'm on a great track professionally there. It's in Atlanta, Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Appreciating real estate market. Sun shines 300 days a year, and Goodyear calls, and they want me to come be part of the turnaround. The stock price at Goodyear at that point is $3. It's in Akron, Ohio, in the Rust Belt, where the sun shines maybe 30 days a year if you're lucky. It's a depreciating real estate market. The company is deciding whether they're going to file for bankruptcy or not. And I definitely want to go be part of it. And my family and friends ask me if I have lost my mind. But I didn't. I wanted to go be part of turning that company around. And almost to the point where in my heart I'm thinking, I want to be on my porch with a grandchild someday when the blimp flies over and say, I was part of turning that company around. I was part of making sure that didn't go bankrupt. And I had a similar feeling when I was interviewing to come to EMPI, because I saw a brand that had been battered and beat up, and a brand that was once the pinnacle of the Volkswagen world. And I said, I want to go be part of making that brand what it stood for once upon a time. And that's why I'm here. And to me, it's a great responsibility and not one that I take lightly. And so if you hear me talk in the industry, and just like you hear me talk now, that's a large part of what this is for me. Certainly I have an obligation to the stakeholders of EMPI, but I also feel like I have an obligation to the people in the hobby to make it better. And that's what I'm here for.
Well, that's too cool.
Well, the most important thing for me is always to thank our customers for buying our stuff, because without them, I don't have a job, and the folks who work with me don't have a job. So thanks for having confidence in me and our folks, and for buying our stuff. And I promise you and commit to you that it's going to keep getting better. So thank you, and thanks again for having me. This was a lot of fun, and I hope I get a chance to come back.
No, for sure. We'll do it again, and I may in the future start doing some EMPI history segments, and kind of bring in on some of those, and we just talk about some stuff, and it may be something where we talk about something old, and it might be called something old, something new, and we do something do something like that. Talk about here's what we used to do back in the day, and here's what we're doing now. So
awesome.
I think it's a perfect opportunity, man. And I appreciate you for coming on the podcast. And for sure, we'll be hearing from Phillip in the future. So I hope you guys out there in podcast land appreciate this podcast and look forward for more big things coming from EMPI. Phillip, thanks for coming on.
You bet.
All right.
Take care.
You got
Bye-bye.
it.